So how's it going, everybody? Today is Sunday. It's just a little after 4 o'clock, and we're here working on the. We're here just working. And if you're wondering, on the last video where I said Wes has been gone, he ended up being gone for 5 days, and this is where he went. We bought a 2009 Kenworth W900L, and he went to pick it up. He flew out of Dallas to Minneapolis, and then flew from Minneapolis to Grand Forks, North Dakota. This truck was way up north in the northeastern part of North Dakota, and we saw it on auction time and thought, hey, it'd be just about a perfect truck. We've been looking for a truck for about a year, and either too much money or we were busy and couldn't keep up with it online or whatever, and just nothing ever worked out. So Wes did bid on a few trucks. He actually bought a Mack truck. It had to be 4 weeks ago. He was watching this Kenworth W900, and it went for nearly $40,000, I believe. And so he really wanted that truck, and he sat there on the live auction online. And a couple trucks after that was a Mack. I forgot the Granite 713 is maybe the model. Anyway, it was a red one, came in and went for $38,000. Then there was a green one that came in right behind it. It was 2013. Went for like $25,000, and so nobody was bidding on it. So Wes bid on it and ended up getting it, winning the bid for $25,000. It had a wet kit, had all that. I think it had 400,000 miles on it, and like I said, it's 2013. So we didn't really want a Mack truck, but for that price, and maybe not too bad of a deal. But anyway, long story short is it was a bank repo, and the bank refused to sell for that low. So we lost out on that, which kind of maybe a good thing. Like I said, we didn't really want a Mack truck, and really was looking at Kenworths or Peterbilts, and he was watching some other Kenworths, and then this one came up. And if you ever got on like auction time or anything like that, there's pictures and videos and all that. This truck didn't have any video. It just had about 10 or 11 pictures. About half the pictures were no good. They looked like they were taken with a cell phone, and like where they didn't hold the phone the right way. And anyway, like I'm kind of getting off on what I wanted to talk about, but through the pictures, it looked good. It looked like what we wanted. It did say it had a sliding fifth wheel, and it said a headache rack, but obviously there's not a headache rack. We kind of knew that part, but the sliding fifth wheel we did not know about. In the description, it did say it had one. It also has doesn't have air ride. It just has leaf springs, which it is what it is. But it said it had 490,000 miles on it. It's got an ISX Cummins. And yeah, and the weird thing is after we bought it, we were I can't remember exactly what we were doing, but I got on YouTube and ended up finding this truck where it was sold on truck paper in December of 2015. It was the exact truck, but it had decals on it. And anyway, it was just a real short and real crappy video, and it was only like a minute long. We watched it like 10 times. After we kept watching it, we were thinking like, hey, that other truck's got that same little mark. That it's got the same little thing here. It's got the same thing here. What gave it away is the Medford Trucking mud flap that's still on it. It was on in that video. So Medford Trucking had it in West Virginia, hauling coal. They apparently sold it in 2015, and then we don't know for sure if it went straight to North Dakota or where, and we don't really know exactly what it was doing in North Dakota. But it's got a factory wet kit on it, and it's a 13-speed, like I said, ISX Cummins. And once we got it here, we started noticing there's a lot of little problems. There's a lot of stuff, like just stupid stuff like this here. just pulled out the heater cord, the engine heater out of the truck. So the I don't know where the other end is, but it burned up on that side, so they just left it and replaced it. I'll show you on that side. But anyway, they just left the cord just laying there and just left it hanging off on the other side. This is just a small thing. So they put this one in. Just left the other one hanging there. This line here was replaced at some point, but the factory one, they just chopped the hoses off. They chopped it off here and here and left that line sitting in the clamps, and then took this new line and zip tied it to it. So me and Wes already took the old one out and put the one that they replaced into these clamps. Yeah. What else was there? Oh, like the pipe up here was just sitting on the engine. It's not clamped in. This thing was hanging off. It's missing the bolts. There's a lot of broken wires that we're gonna have to fix. We've already fixed the exhaust pipe. The exhaust pipe was broke right here. It's just broke and it was just hanging. And we already fixed that. And we've already fixed 2 air leaks, and we can hear another one. I just haven't been able to find it yet. And what else is it? Just some other little stupid minor things here and there. The power steering was leaking fluid, and Wes just took the hose off and he went to go get it fixed. You know, so that's kind of it on the truck. Just needs a lot of, it got neglected. Like for instance, something stupid is the horn doesn't work, but it's got like 3 horns on it where they, you know, horn quit working, and so they bought a new horn and just stuck it somewhere else, and then they bought another one and stuck it somewhere else. Things like that. Like they would go to fix something, and then whatever they had to take loose to fix it, they just left it. Like this only had 2 bolts holding onto it, other than the 6 or so that are supposed to be there. It's got a new starter on it, but then the power cable going to the starter is just hanging here, zip tied to the leaf spring. So notice this here. I believe it's to jump start it, but then there's nothing hooked up to it. So there's that. I've already found a whole bunch of stuff. So we're just going through and fixing everything on it. A couple things we've already fixed, a couple things we're working on, stuff like that. But that's a different story. But the whole deal on this was, so the whole deal on this, and a little bit of advice, if you ever buy anything on auction time, or not even on auction time, just online, which I never would have thought we would have bought something in North Dakota, or even, you know, it never would have crossed my mind. We usually stay pretty close to anything that we ever bought. I guess the grain drill we bought 6 years ago, or yes, around 6 years ago, was in Nebraska. Went and got that. Or Wes and my grandfather went and got it. And then the Traco was up northeast Oklahoma. It was like kind of brought back from the dead then. Was sitting with no tracks on it. And Wes and a couple other guys went and put tracks on it, and then had somebody haul it in. The Puma was in central Louisiana. A lot of these John Deere tractors came from Idabel in Oklahoma. Other than that, I can't really think of anything else, how far we went and got it. The wheel loader, the big dozer, came from just an auction here in town, out on the interstate. But anyway, so like I said, I never would have thought we would have gone this far to get a truck, but it happened. So the story goes, we won the auction, called the guy, and talked to him. He's like, oh yeah, well, actually, go back a little bit. Wes called this one phone number that was on the auction, and a lady answered, and we believe it was his daughter, said, yeah, he's in bad health, and that's why he was selling the truck. And then that was actually right before Wes won the auction, and then so ended up getting a hold of the guy after we had won the auction, and so talked to the guy a little after Wes won the auction, and he said, I asked him, Wes just told me to take care of it all, so I asked him, what's the best way to get up there? We can only send one guy. The closest we can get in a plane is to Grand Forks, North Dakota, and then so from there, I believe it was another 80 miles. And I said, I don't know if he rents a car to get there, then he won't be able to get the rental car back. And then what he told me, his exact words, you just get to the airport in Grand Forks and I'll take care of the rest. So it's like, oh, okay, awesome. This is going to work out great. So he left the ball in my court to figure out how to get Wes there. It was a toss-up if it was going to be me that went or if it was going to be Wes. Wes decided that he's the one that wanted to go because he didn't want to be stuck here at the barn by himself. So he went, and that was that. But I called the guy a couple times. He didn't answer. And I finally talked to him Sunday at midday, and I said, hey, we got flights. We got a flight up there. He's going to be landing in North Dakota at Grand Forks Airport at 10:30 in the morning, Monday morning. He said, okay, we're in a blizzard right now. It's like, oh, I just talked to you yesterday and you just said, just get up here. And I even told him first of the week, like, man, I could have avoided that, but okay. Could have avoided that, but he said, that's fine. I'll pick him up from the airport and we'll have the truck sitting at a truck stop. It's like, okay, awesome. So I talked to him a few other times if the roads were going to be open and all that, and I told him the flights were on time. He actually landed in North Dakota about 30 minutes ahead of schedule, and then so I was texting and I got a few replies back, and then about 10 o'clock they just disappeared, no more text. He did say that it was cold and up there, and then that they would have the truck at the truck stop around noon. So I was like, okay, that's not too bad. He's sit at the airport for a couple hours. Well, anyway, never heard from the guy again until about 6 o'clock that night. Wes sat at the airport from 10 till 6 p.m. From 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Finally, somebody came in there. It may have been a little bit before that, but somebody came in and asked Wes if he needed help because he's just sitting there. And that guy ended up helping Wes out a whole lot. Got him a hotel room. Got a hold of the guy, set up a deal. They didn't have the truck. They said it was the brakes were locked up on it, and so Wes just said, if you don't have the truck here tomorrow by noon, then I'm flying back, and that'll be that, and we'll just back out of the deal. So then the next day, Wes woke up and. Me and him are calling back and forth to each other, and he, the guy said he was, at about 10, 11 o'clock, the guy said it was really cold outside, and he was waiting for it to get to 10 degrees, and then about 11 o'clock, he said, made her to 10 degrees, and so, he said he'd have the truck there about 2, and then Wes said, okay, that's fine. And then he texted back around, I believe it was like 1:30, 2 o'clock, and said, oh, we're just now leaving. We'll have it there at 4. And so when they finally rolled in about 5:30 or so, it was dark. And Wes almost backed out of the deal. He actually told the guy, man, I think you just need to take me back to the hotel room. But anyway, he ended up deciding, okay. And so paid the guy. It didn't have a whole lot of air pressure built up in it, and the guy said that was because the airlines were frozen, and that he just needed to take off driving and head down south where it'd get warmer, and then it'd be fine. So basically, Wes white knuckled it all the way to Nebraska from 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. I talked to him. The last I talked to him was 1 in the morning, and he was saying, try to find him somewhere to um, find him a hotel room in Nebraska around Omaha. And so I did that, and at 1 o'clock made a reservation for him. Then I went to sleep, and then at 4 a.m. he was calling me and said he missed the exit for the hotel and was sitting in a boot barn parking lot, and the truck was out of air and it wasn't running right. Fuel gelled up. He actually tried to stop and take a leak at one place, and the truck died on him and wouldn't start back up. And then I think that was around Sioux City, somewhere up there, and he thought he was going to freeze to death. He said for some reason he didn't have any heat in the cab. They said they turned the heat to go to the fuel. But anyway, so he's driving in his coveralls, and he said it was about 20 degrees inside the cab. And the next day he was he thinks from being white knuckle all the way from Nebraska, or I mean from North Dakota to Nebraska, and then shivering so much that he was cramping up the whole next day. But anyway, so when he got to somewhere around Sioux City, the truck started back up and he took off again. Obviously, you're just kind of thinking that the fuel's gelling up. So he got out of there and then made it to Nebraska. And then when he got into Nebraska, he said there was absolutely no traffic, snow blowing sideways, ice on bridges, probably ice on the roads, and all that good stuff. But he never really had to use the brakes any. So when he stopped, or when he missed his exit and got in that parking lot, he didn't have any air. And then so at 4 a.m. he called me, and then I found him a cab, and I think he sat there for, I don't remember exactly. The cab said that they were in a shift change and it would be like 45 minutes. Then they couldn't find him, and so the cab driver couldn't find him. He called me back about 5 o'clock, and he said nobody still hadn't come and picked him up. I called again. Anyway, it was close to about 5:45, 5:50 in the morning when the cab driver found him and gave him a ride to the hotel room. And then so he stayed there for 6 or 7 hours. And then at about 11 o'clock the next morning, this would have been Wednesday morning. So Monday, Tuesday, and now into Wednesday. All he did was fly and sit around on Monday, sat around 3/4 of the day on Tuesday, drove all night Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, slept Wednesday morning, and then he went to the truck, got a cab ride to the truck, started it up. It was running a little rough, and then, but it wouldn't build air pressure up. And then so he ended up calling a mobile mechanic that had a great, forgot them guys' name, Zap Brothers, something like that. Anyway, they came out, and Wes noticed on the air dryer that there was a broken fitting, and then told them to bring a fuel filter. So they put the fuel filters on, and then they fixed that fitting. And they did something else, I don't remember what it was, but the truck still wouldn't air up. And then so the guy took off the airline coming out of the compressor, and he held his thumb over it. And you shouldn't be able to hold your thumb over it. It should blow your thumb off. Not like off, but you shouldn't be able to hold your thumb on the hose. So that's why he wasn't building up pressure. So Wednesday's New Year's morning, or New Year's Day, they put glad hands onto the truck and they aired it up, and Wes drove it as fast as he could to their shop, which was actually just right like almost across the road. I think he said he had to go through like 3 or 4 red lights. So when he got to their shop, they gave him a ride to the Horseshoe Casino, and so he was, fine then. He didn't need me no more. And so that Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, I only got like 3 hours of sleep, trying to help him navigate and trying to help him get a cab and a hotel room and all that good stuff. But there was, I think, 2 different days he was up 28 hours. Then he ended up driving for 28 hours. But anyway, So they said they wouldn't be able to get a new air compressor until the next morning, and there was a Peterbilt across the road there. So the next morning they got the parts, and from, I guess they kind of put all hands on deck to get it fixed. They said they put their number one mechanic on it, and then they got it running. I think they ended up getting it running like at 5 o'clock after getting all the parts. And I know I talked to them around noon, and they were still trying to gather parts. But anyway, they got the truck running around noon, and Wes made it out of there. I mean, a good hefty bill, but he made it out of there at 6 o'clock. What day was this? Thursday? Yeah, I believe it was Thursday. It would have been January 2nd, so Thursday night he headed out at around 6 p.m. and then he made it all the way somewhere into Oklahoma, and then about, I think he said at like 4 or so in the morning, he pulled over and stopped and slept a couple hours in the truck, and then once he got a little bit of daylight, he came the rest of the way, and then I believe it was 10:30 or so when he pulled into the barn Friday morning. It should have been a 17-hour drive with no problems, and ended up taking him 5 days and all those other problems. But the whole deal of the story is, them guys said that they would take care of it, no problem. They'd have it. They didn't say I'd have the truck ready to go, but they said, you just get to the airport and we'll take care of the rest. To me, that means they'll have the truck ready to go, and they're not going to leave you stranded at the airport, number one. Number two, they'll have the truck ready to take a road trip, because not only was the air compressor out, it was leaking power steering fluid, and fuel filters, they said, have been sitting since August. I don't know. I mean, partially our fault for believing in somebody else. If things were a little different, I mean, and we still would have bought a truck that far, I guess we could have went a little more prepared. But trying to send just one guy on an airplane, obviously you can't take things that you might need. Oh, I just remembered. They looks like they put batteries in the truck, but it should be 3 batteries. They only gave him 2 batteries, so there's a third battery missing. So the truck starts really, really slow. It'll run, but it's really hard to start. So I mean, they just wanted the truck gone and wanted Wes gone down the road a little bit, and then they wouldn't have to worry about it. They didn't give a shit if he fucking made it home. Sorry for cussing, but that's the way it is, and it really pisses me off. May have to take a road trip in the middle of summer, whoop somebody's ass. But anyway, that's what happened with this truck, or what happened with Wes on his road trip. He's just pulling in now. He went to get a battery and get a power steering hose. But we've been working on this truck, and I'll see if he wants to say anything on the end of this video. And but if not, we'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. Hopefully it's going to turn out to be a badass truck for us, and we kind of need a win. So we'll see you on the next one.